This is the Kia K900, and over the past 4 years, Kia has managed to just sell 5,900 units of this car, which is an extremely low number. So low, in fact, that I think some of you may not even know that this car exists. But what I'm going to bring to you today is the top 10 reasons that the Kia K900 is the coolest car that you've never heard of. Number 10 on this list has to be what's under the hood, because it's actually the same exact power plant that you get in a Kia Stinger GT. This is a 3.3 liter twin turbocharged V6 that makes 365 horsepower and 376 pound-feet of torque. Now it sends that power to all four wheels through an 8-speed automatic transmission that Kia builds in-house. How does it perform? Well, 0 to 60 is over with in 5.7 seconds, according to Kia here at sea level, which is actually a lot slower than the Kia Stinger GT. And there's a good reason for that. It's because the K900 is quite a bit heavier, actually. It's about 4,650 pounds, which is a big jump from the Kia Stinger. Now that you know that the K900 shares a lot of components with the Kia Stinger, you might be wondering, does it drive a lot like the Kia Stinger? And the answer is kind of. The engine performs pretty much exactly the same, as does the transmission and the all-wheel drive system. As a result, when you get into some twisty roads, the K900 hangs on pretty well, but compared to the Stinger, you feel the weight a lot more. Part of that may be due to the fact that this one is on, well, a low rolling resistance all-season tire, not a summer performance tire like a Pilot Super Sport. The other thing you may want to know is fuel economy, and we've been told that the K900 gets 18 in the city, 25 on the highway for a combined rating of just 21 mpg, which isn't fantastic, but it's not horrible considering you have a 365 horsepower twin turbo V6 under the hood. Number 9 on this list has to do with these three letters right here, AWD, or all-wheel drive. As I just mentioned, the K900 now comes standard with all-wheel drive, and like the Kia Stinger's all-wheel drive system, this one is rear biased. Now it does have a form of torque vectoring, but it's brake actuated, so it's kind of cheating, but it can use the brakes to brake the inside wheel and help you scoot around a corner a little bit better. Number 8 is exclusivity. This is the new second generation Kia K900. However, the first generation K900 has sold just 203 units so far this year, and in its total lifetime here in the US, it's sold just 5,900 units over a 4-year period. That number puts it in a very exclusive group of cars. In fact, the Ferrari 488, the Lamborghini Huracan, and the McLaren 570S have all sold more units so far this year. Number 7 on this list actually has to do with the name, K900, because you might be sitting there at home watching this video thinking, K900 is an interesting name, where does it come from and what does it mean? Well, in Korea, this car's domestic market, the K900 is actually called the K9. Number 6 has to do with the seats, because every seat in the K900 has a different amount of adjustability. The driver's seat is 20-way power adjustable, whereas the front passenger seat just gets 16-way adjusting seats, losing out on the bolstering adjustment. The right rear passenger gets a 14-way adjustment, and the left rear passenger just gets 12 ways of movement. The difference between the back seats is that the right side can adjust the height of the seat, whereas the left side cannot. Number 5 on the list is the interior lighting here in the K900, and there's two important things to point out. The first is this little feature called interactive button lights. And what that does is when you move your hand closer to the display, the lights actually get 20% brighter than when you take your hand away, and they use little sensors here in the dashboard to figure out when your fingers are close. Now the other part of this is the fact that there's actually 64 different colors of ambient lighting available here on the interior, and you can select those using the wheel. Number 4 on this list has to do with the suspension, because on a luxurious sedan like the K900, you want to have a pretty nice ride. And what's cool about this suspension is that it's actually electronically adjustable, and there's 3 important modes that I want to bring up. The first is comfort mode, because in a comfortable car you want to have comfortable suspension, and I can assure you that the K900's comfort mode is quite comfy. But if you're not comfy enough in normal comfort mode, there's Comfort Plus mode, which is optimized for maximum comfort according to Kia. But then if the road gets a little curvy and you decide you want to stiffen things up, there is also a sport mode that actually feels pretty sporty. One more thing to mention about the adaptive suspension, the K900 suspension of course adjusts itself depending on what drive mode you're in, and there are 5 total drive modes. So there's Eco mode, Comfort mode, and Sport mode, and then there's Custom mode and Smart mode, and Smart just kind of chooses the driving mode based on how you're driving the car. Number 3 on this list has to do with the suspension, because on a luxurious sedan like the K900, you want to have a pretty nice ride. And what's cool about this suspension is that it's actually electronically adjustable. The first is comfort mode, because in a comfortable car you want to have comfortable suspension, and I can assure you that the K900's comfort mode is quite comfy. But if you're not comfy enough in normal comfort mode, there's Comfort Plus mode, which is optimized for maximum comfort according to Kia. But then if the road gets a little curvy and you decide you want to stiffen things up, there is also a sport mode that actually feels pretty sporty. One more thing to mention about the adaptive suspension, the K900 suspension of course adjusts itself depending on what drive mode you're in, and there are 5 total drive modes. So there's Eco mode, Comfort mode, and Sport mode, and then there's Custom mode and Number 3 on the list is road noise, because the K900 is exceptionally quiet here in the cabin. I've been hanging out with my friend Alex from Alex on Autos, and he kindly let me borrow this decibel meter to show you guys exactly how quiet it is. There's extra insulation in the bulkhead between the engine compartment and the cabin. There's stuff in the roof liner, and even the wheels have a special plastic ring in them that's designed to reduce vibration and make it extra quiet here in the K900. Number 2 on this list has to do with competition, because this segment is actually fairly competitive. Now, I've got my notebook here to tell you all the cars that compete with the K900 because it's a long list. Now, the first one is the Audi A6. There's also the BMW 5 Series, the Cadillac CTS, the Lexus GS, the Mercedes E-Class, the Lincoln Continental, and the Volvo S90. We're finally here at number 1, and as I mentioned, number 1 has to do with value. The base trim, which is called the luxury trim on the K900, starts at $59,900, and there's actually only one other trim. It's called the VIP trim, and that starts at $63,900. For comparison, I told you I would use the BMW 5 Series. The base model BMW 530i xDrive, so a 4-cylinder turbo with all-wheel drive, starts at about $55,000, but it has no options at that price. To get something that comes with all the same equipment as this Kia K900, you'd have to spend well over 70 grand on your 5 Series. We always like to include a bonus, so I thought I'd show you some of the more quirky features in the car. There are sunshades in the rear, the dashboard features a designer analog clock, and the digital gauge cluster makes use of cameras on the side mirrors to give you a camera view of your blind spot in your gauge cluster. This one was really cool. Hopefully I have proven to you here today that the K900 is in fact the coolest Kia that you've never heard of. It's full of technology, full of features, full of value, and it's a really awesome car. For the Fast Lane Car, I'm Mike Curtis. Please be sure to come back to TFLcar.com for more news, views, and real-world reviews, and of course, more videos about the Kia K900, because I can assure you, the second we get one back at our office in Colorado for at least a week, we're gonna do a full review. This was just the first drive, and there'll be a lot more coming soon.